And we earlier authorized a delegation from Mr. Reinhard Westphal, I believe, on the same topic, busking bylaw. Welcome, sir. You have late delegation, up to 5 minutes, please.
Your Worship, council members and fellow citizens, I'm not talking about the busking bylaw itself. I want to address you on the enforceability of this bylaw. And so that the citizens know a little bit better what we're talking about, let me give a brief history here. The current bylaw was adopted in May 2003. Some buskers felt that this bylaw was unfair, that it would be unenforceable, so they protested this bylaw, and the city then went out and got an injunction against the Cunningham family, which cost the taxpayer somewhere around $10,000. I believe it is more, but the city has failed so far to disclose the actual amount, which is most likely, like I say, considerable higher. The past has proven, and Council and Bylaw Office is well aware, that the bylaw was unenforceable, was not being enforced, and I will prove that to you. To my knowledge, only one $25 ticket of the many issued since 1998 was actually collected. Why is it? If I go fishing and I fish limit, I get my fishing equipment taken away, my car is probably being impounded, I have to pay a hefty fine because someone is really feeling very strong about these regulations. On the other hand, in Nanaimo, it seems that no one on council or staff seems to be willing and strong enough to enforce the created bylaws. No, you'll just create another one like we have seen with the cheap liquor bylaw. Over the last month, myself and other people have complained on numerous occasions to the bylaw office and the police about busking bylaw violations. The result, nil. Why is it? It is because the existing and the new bylaw is unenforceable. A week before the last bylaw review committee met, on 3 different occasions within 1 week, I called the twice, the bylaw enforcement once, about one particular busker who broke both the nuisance bylaw and the busking bylaw. This person was insulting people on the waterfront, calling them names, scaring the female walkers on the waterfront. What was the result of my 3-time complaint? 0. That makes me very frustrated. I told the review committee at that meeting about this incident, and I asked for more enforcement, but my remarks didn't even make it on their minutes. What does it tell me? It tells me that enforcement is not a priority with this council, and your action proves that. The list could go on about complaints. Now, any city council is both a legislature and an executive government. Legislature passes laws, the government has a constitutional duty to apply those laws. To fail to do so is called dispensing with the application of the laws. And that a government has no power to dispense with the laws was firmly established as long ago as 1689, when the Bill of Rights in England abolished the pretended power of the Crown to dispense with enforcing certain statutes. And the Bill of Rights of 1689 continues to be law in British Columbia. And British Columbia and Nanaimo has not yet abandoned BC, as far as I understand it. The reason that a government or a government official cannot refuse to enforce a law is that failing to enforce it is tantamount to repealing it. And since only the legislature can repeal a law, the official would be usurping the legislative power. Bylaw officers, as far as I understand it, have a legal obligation to enforce city bylaws. And until you can prove to the public who elected you into office that you have the means to enforce this busking bylaw and the power and the will to do so, I think you have no legal right making it a law, and you should also repeal the existing busking bylaw. Your job, as far as I see it, should be to create an enforceable bylaw. It can be done, but it is your job. In closing, let me stress again, this bylaw is unenforceable. And that is not only my own view. I have here in my hand an email written by Darren Kiddick, the business enforcement or the business license inspector. And this email was sent to Kathy Davis and James Cunningham in response to the complaints they made about bylaw violations. And Mr. Kiddick writes here, I understand your frustration as you point out, I understand your frustration, but as you point out, I only have limited resources to deal with these people. Every time I get a complaint, I realize how important it is to have a bylaw. Now listen to this, how important it is to have a bylaw that has strict guidelines and criteria in it. You may want to think about starting your street entertainer association you were talking about. It is obvious. It is obvious. We cannot make this work by ourselves or without more cooperation. I find it rather amusing. The city is asking the same buskers they got an injunction against to please help us because it is obvious we can't make this work by ourselves. I would ask you very, very much to reconsider this whole issue because it is unenforceable. Thank you.
Any questions to Mr. Westphal? Councillor Tyndall?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Westphal, in your opinion, and I'm going to ask to make a point, should we just abolish speed limits because we can't catch every speeder? We kind of, when laws are set and made, it's a hope that citizens would respect the rights of others. This bylaw is put together to not only respect the rights of our citizens, but also to respect the rights of buskers. What would be your response to that?
If we had 20 million buskers in Nanaimo, or how many people drive a car here, if we had as many buskers as people that drive a car and could drive too fast, I would agree with you. But if we are only dealing with 20 people and complaints are coming in and you say this bylaw is complaint-based, and if people make complaints and the bylaw is not enforced, then I have to question it. Either it is complaint-based or it's not. Either you want to enforce it or you have no intention of enforcing it when you hear of complaints. And not just a complaint, oh, somebody played 10 minutes too long. People are being assaulted. I don't even want to mention the words that this busker was yelling at me and other people as they were passing by. If a complaint like that is not taken serious, then why have that bylaw?
Any other questions to Mr. Westphal? Moved Councillor Candela, second Councillor Kroll to receive the delegation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.